North side, south side, east side, west side, north side, south side.
Welcome to Atlanta where the Falcons play, and we coming for that dub like every day. Big beats hit streets, see gangsters roaming, and parties don't stop till 8 in the morning.
I said welcome to Atlanta where the Falcons play, and we going for that dub like every day. Big beats hit the streets, see gangsters roaming, and parties don't stop till 8 in the morning.
What's good, YouTube? Devil Falcons fan here, back with another video. Welcome to Falcons Talk Season 2. So Falcons Talk has returned for the 2024 off season. So if you know what Falcons Talk is, it's my series of episodes where I talk all in the Falcons football throughout the off season before the start of the new season. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're not already, and comment down below what you think. With that being said, let's get started. So, we're in episode 1, which is a 2023 season recap. So to recap the season, the Falcons finished with a record of 7-10 for the third consecutive time under now former head coach Arthur Smith.
Oh shit, here we go again.
And not only that, they also had the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft for the third consecutive time under former coach Smith.
Oh shit, here we go again.
But the good news is that after those 3 disappointing seasons, the Falcons have fired Coach Smith shortly after midnight on Monday, January 8th, with just 1 week away from reaching the 3-year mark of hiring Coach Smith. And it was bound to happen. We all knew this was going to happen. Arthur Smith going 7-10 each of his 3 seasons as a Falcons head coach is unacceptable. The first one was okay, we're moving in the right direction. This was better than 4-12 from 2020. The second 7-10 was okay. We were supposed to be the worst team, but we won 7 games, which is incredible. But we gotta step up. And then the third 7-10 with Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, that was severely disappointing, and we had to fire Coach Smith. We had to fire him. There was just no other choice. So good riddance to him. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopefully he pans out. Wish him well. Alright, let's do a 2022 versus 2023 sack comparison. So in 2022, with a record of 7-10, the Falcons offense scored 34 touchdowns, threw 9 interceptions, allowed 37 sacks, and they had a total of 5,417 yards. Defensively, they scored 2 touchdowns, had 10 interceptions, allowed 386 points, 6,304 yards, and 41 touchdowns. They also had 21 sacks. Special teams wise, the team scored 2 touchdowns. At home, we got a record of 6-3, and on the road, we had a record of 1-7. In 2023, with a record of 7-10, the Falcons offense scored 32 touchdowns, had a staggering 17 interceptions,
Damn!
allowed 40 sacks, had a total of 5,683 yards. Defensively, the team scored 1 touchdown, had 8 interceptions, allowed 373 points, 5,458 yards, and 36 touchdowns. And they also had a whopping 42 defensive sacks.
Damn!
42. And if you think that's crazy, check this out. The Falcons' 42 sacks not only doubled 2022 sack total, which is 21, but they also have more sacks than they had in 2021, which was 18, and like I said, 2022, which had 21 combined. 18 plus 21 equals 39, and 42 is greater than 39.
Damn!
Ryan Nielsen, in one season, he turned this defense around. And unfortunately, he won't be with us anymore because he's the defensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I wish him well. And special teams wise, the offer had a near kick 6, so there wasn't really much I could say about them. I just want to give the offer some credit. At home, we had a record of 5-3, and on the road, we had a record of 2-7. Let's do some player stats. First up is the quarterback. Alright, let's take a look at former Falcon, now Cardinals quarterback, Desmond Ridder. He played 15 games, and in those 15 games, he completed 64.2% of his passes. He had 2,836 passing yards, 12 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and on the ground, he had 52 carries for 193 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 12 fumbles, with a quarterback rating of 83.4. So Desmond Ridder, he had a triple-double in football. 12 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 12 fumbles.
Damn!
And I'll say this about Ridder, now that he's no longer on the team. He did not deserve all of that disrespect. It was not all his fault. I feel like Arthur Smith, he actually ruined this man's talent because he did not give him like a true mentor to teach him how to play a quarterback well. Matt Ryan could have been the best mentor for Desmond Ridder had we not decided to go for Deshaun Watson. Marcus Mariota, a terrible mentor. Taylor Heineke, terrible mentor. Kirk Cousins could have been a great mentor for Desmond Ridder had we not traded him. But we traded him away, so it is what it is. I wish Ridder well in Arizona, and we'll just stick with whatever we have. Next up is Taylor Heineke. He played 5 games, and in those games, he completed 54.4% of his passes. He had 890 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and on the ground, he had 15 carries for 124 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and 1 fumble, with a quarterback rating of 47.1. So Taylor Heineke, he stepped up when we needed, but during that Bears game, he crumbled because that's where he really turned over the ball so much. He might stay as the Falcons' backup, but I don't know. And lastly, we got Logan Woodside. He only played 1 game. That was versus the Saints. He completed 75% of his passes, had 27 passing yards, and he threw his first career interception with a quarterback rating of 53.1. So Logan Woodside, what's his future with the Falcons? He's most likely going to get cut during the summer. I don't see him on the Falcons roster. He's going to be gone. Next up is the wide receiver room. Let's take a look at Drake London. He had 69 receptions on 110 targets, 905 yards, 13.2 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns. So Drake London, he had some outstanding plays, but he just lacks the correct quarterback to throw him the ball, and he lacks the head coach to utilize him well. Having 905 yards is unacceptable for Drake London, who is, I believe, 6'2". For a guy like that, he should have over 1,000 yards. But Arthur Smith, he ruined his talent. Hopefully, Raheem Morris, the new head coach, can change that. Next up is Scotty Miller. He had 11 receptions on 16 targets, 161 yards, 14.6 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns. So Scotty Miller, he stepped up in that wide receiver 2 position. I think he's going to be staying with the Falcons, but I don't think it's actually going to happen. Gardner Minshew, he's a great player. He can make a play when it happens. He can catch the ball. He can score touchdowns. So he'll stay with us. Next up is Van Jefferson. 20 receptions on 43 targets, 209 yards, 10.4 yards per catch. I don't see him staying with the Falcons. He's gonna get cut. He dropped passes here and there. Yeah, his future with the Falcons is slim. He's not staying. Next up is former Falcon, now Buffalo Bills wide receiver Mack Hollins. He had 18 receptions on 30 targets, 251 yards, 13.9 yards per catch. So Mack Hollins, who's considered one of the weirdest and goofiest players on the team, is now part of the Buffalo Bills. So not much needs to be said. He was a great player, a great focal point in that wide receiver room, and I wish him well. Next up is re-signee KhaDarel Hodge. 14 receptions on 23 targets, 232 yards, and 16.6 yards per catch. So KhaDarel Hodge comes back to Atlanta to serve as that wide receiver 3 for the team. KhaDarel Hodge, he's another great player who makes plays when it happens. Hopefully, Raheem Morris, he can actually unlock him and give him some touchdowns. Hopefully, Kirk Cousins, he can do that for him as well. Next up is the running back position. And let's take a look at our star-studded running back, Bijan Robinson. 214 carries on 976 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, and 4 rushing touchdowns. As a receiver, 58 receptions on 487 yards, 8.4 yards per catch, and 4 receiving touchdowns. So Bijan Robinson, he stood out. He came as advertised, blocking people here and there, breaking ankles. He was a star-studded player. But not all rookie performances come with failures. And Bijan Robinson was no exception. He had 4 fumbles. And another thing about Bijan Robinson, he was heavily underutilized. A player like him should have at least 12,000 rushing yards. And I would be okay with 1,000 receiving yards too. But man, Arthur Smith really ruined this man. Hopefully, Kirk Cousins and Raheem Morris, they unlock him and utilize him properly. Next up is Tyler Allgeier. He had 186 carries, 683 yards, 3.7 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. As a receiver, 18 receptions on 193 yards and 10.7 yards per catch with 1 touchdown. So Tyler Allgeier, his reps definitely decreased thanks to Arthur Smith. Tyler Allgeier, you should not forget, he's still a dynamic player on the Falcons offense. You should give him the ball more. That first game versus the Panthers, he really burst to that Panthers defense line. So hopefully, we use him more and realize that him and Bijan could provide a deadly punch in that offense. Alrighty, now let's take a look at former Falcon, now Pittsburgh Steelers running back Cordarrelle Patterson. So yes, unfortunately, Cordarrelle Patterson is no longer in Atlanta, and he is reunited with Arthur Smith. Ugh. Whatever. During his final year with the Falcons, he had 50 carries on 181 yards, 3.6 yards per carry, no touchdowns on the ground. But as a receiver, he had 9 receptions on 38 yards, 4.2 yards per catch, and 1 touchdown versus the Panthers in Carolina. So Cordell Patterson, the fan favorite, and he's my fan favorite as well. I absolutely love Cordell Patterson. He's one of my favorite players to date. But oh well, you can't really change much. Cordell Patterson is no longer a Falcon. It's okay. We still love him. We still respect him, and he's always welcome back to Atlanta anytime. Next up is the tight end position. And let's take a look at, again, another heavily underutilized player, Kyle Pitts. He had 53 receptions on 90 targets, 667 yards, 12.6 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. So Kyle Pitts, oh my goodness. What was Arthur Smith thinking, just not utilizing him properly? This was absolutely disgusting. You have a star-studded tight end that you picked 4th overall in 2021, and you cannot even use him properly. What happened to 1,000-yard Kyle Pitts with Matt Ryan? Why couldn't you just do that? It makes no sense that Arthur Smith had to fail him. Hopefully Kirk Cousins does what Matt Ryan did. Give this man 1,000-yard comeback player of the year. He deserves it. Next up is former Falcon, now Miami Dolphins tight end Jonnu Smith. 50 receptions on 70 targets, 582 yards, and 11.6 yards per catch with 3 touchdowns. So Jonnu Smith, this was a player that Arthur Smith pretty much used more than Kyle Pitts. He's a tight end 2, but he acted as a tight end 1. So that really sucked that we had to use Jonnu Smith over Kyle Pitts. But at the end of the day, I can't control shit. Alright, next up is another former Falcon, now Pittsburgh Steelers tight end Michael Pruitt. 9 receptions on 12 targets, 110 yards, and 12.2 yards per catch. So, kind of like Jonnu Smith, Arthur Smith kind of used Michael Pruitt more. And if you think about it, both Jonnu Smith and Michael Pruitt have more touchdowns than Kyle Pitts combined in one season, which is 4. Which doesn't seem a lot, but it's just unacceptable that he had to use him more. But oh well, I can't change anything. It is what it is. Alright, and next up is the kicker. And there's only one kicker, none other than Younghoe Koo. His field goal percentage was 86.5. From field goals between the 20 and 39-yard line, he was perfect. For field goals between the 40 and 49-yard line, he completed 81% of those. And for field goals beyond the 15-yard line, he completed half of them. And his extra point made over extra point attempt was 96%. And that totals 123 points. 123 points. That's disappointing. You have an offense that has Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. Younghoe Koo should not have to be scoring 123 points the entire season. We should not have to kick field goals every drive. We should be scoring touchdowns. But Arthur Smith was still a douchebag. He was being the douchebag that we all know. And we have to rely on Younghoe Koo every game. This man is tired of always kicking field goals. Give the man a break. Man, come on. Y'all are better than that. Alrighty. Now that we have the offense and special team out of the way, let's go to the defense. And we'll be taking a look at the secondary. First man up is Jessie Bates III. 132 total tackles, 89 solo, 43 assists. He had 3 forced fumbles and a career high 6 interceptions, with one being a pick 6 against Derek Carr and I don't know the team's name, but yeah, I don't know. Some open banana team. I don't know that team in toilet state, L state. I don't know, but yeah, whatever. Jesse Bates, he was him. He came as advertised. Many criticized the Falcons for giving Jesse Bates 4 years. I believe it was 80 million or 100 million. I don't remember, but they criticized him for doing that, and he shut them up. Jesse Bates deserves to be a Falcon for life. Next up is Richie Grant. 103 total tackles, 66 solo, 37 assists, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. So Richie Grant, he's been getting a lot of heat from Falcons fans because he allowed offenses to just roll past him. But in his defense, I don't think that the safety position is the best place for him. I strongly believe that maybe if you put him at probably the linebacker position, he could strive because he recorded 3 sacks. I believe those were the first sacks of his career that he had this year. So yeah, he had 3 sacks, and if we put him at the linebacker position, he can probably strive in that area instead of secondary. Next up is rookie DeMarco Hellams. 40 total tackles, 25 solo, 15 assists. So you didn't hear much about DeMarco throughout the first couple of games of the season, but throughout the end, he started showing out. Next up is Mike Hughes. 21 total tackles, 14 solo, 7 assists, 1 pass deflection. I don't know what to say about him. He didn't really do shit. Next up is Dee Alford. 41 total tackles, 25 solo, 16 assists, 6 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery. So Dee Alford, he is a standout player for the Falcons. He had a solid year last year, and hopefully, in 2024, he can actually break out and get more picks on that for our defense, because we badly need interceptions. 8 is not enough. We need at least 15 to, let's say, 20. I'd be okay with that. Next up is cornerback Jeff Okudah, who is now on the Texans. 44 total tackles, 34 solo, 10 assists, 3 pass deflections. So the first couple of games, Jeff Okudah seemed like a 2-pack duo with A.J. Terrell, but after a while he fell off the cliff and he was nowhere to be found. I wish him well in Texas, and we'll go from there. Next up is another rookie, Clark Phillips III. 27 total tackles, 22 solo, 5 assists. So pretty much like DeMarco Hellams, we did not see much of him throughout the first couple of games, but throughout the final games of the season, he started getting more reps, and he did make some great plays for us. Next up is Trey Flowers. 21 total tackles, 15 solo, 6 assists, and 2 pass deflections. So I think Trey Flowers will be another cut candidate for the Falcons because he hasn't really done much. And lastly is A.J. Terrell. 45 total tackles, 34 solo, 11 assists, and 2 pass deflections. So A.J. Terrell, does he stay on the team? Does he get his 5th-year extension? I doubt it, because A.J. Terrell, he has not lived up to what we expected him to do ever since that 2021 standout season. I hope that, he can stay because he really seems like a good person. But, man, he has to get back to 2021 A.J. Terrell. He needs to. He needs to. He's a great player, but he just lacks reps. He lacks interceptions. He just lacks plays. Next up is the linebacker position. And first up is Troy Anderson, who had 19 total tackles, 7 solo, 12 assists, and he got half a sack. So Troy Anderson unfortunately suffered a pectoral injury. I believe that was after week 2 or 3 that took him out for the remainder of the season. I really was rooting for Troy Anderson because he made some really good plays his rookie year. And beginning versus the Panthers, he had some really solid plays. He had his first career sack against Bryce Young that game. But like I said, hopefully, he comes back strong and he's able to do what he does best and just make some solid plays. We could switch him at the edge position so he can get to the quarterback more, but we'll see what happens. Next up is Lorenzo Carter, who had 35 total tackles, 24 solo, 11 assists, 3 sacks, and 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and a pass deflection. So Lorenzo Carter, what does his future hold for the Falcons? Does he get cut? He's probably going to be a cut candidate, but I feel like the Falcons, they might, re-sign him to a 1-year deal, probably worth at least $8 million at most. Next up is outside linebacker Bud Dupree. 39 total tackles, 17 solo, 22 assists, and he had 6.5 sacks, tied with Calais Campbell. He also had 2 forced fumbles and 3 pass deflections. So Bud Dupree, the Georgia native, he comes home and he stands out. He was constantly getting to the quarterback, which is what we badly needed. We badly needed a pass rusher, and we got one. Our defense was capable of getting to the quarterbacks, and shout out to Bud Dupree. Next up is the doctor, Arnold Ebiketie. 25 total tackles, 16 solo, 9 assists, 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 pass deflection. So Arnold Ebiketie, who had an outstanding sophomore season, really stood out. And I'm really proud of how he really changed from his rookie year to his sophomore year. I expect a huge leap from Arnold Ebiketie during his 3rd year. I think he's going to become that Micah Parsons type of linebacker for us. But we'll see what happens. Next up is Kaden Elliss. 122 tackles, 82 solo, 40 assists, 4 sacks, 3 pass deflections. So Kaden Elliss, he was up and about throughout the whole season. Sometimes he had low snaps, sometimes he has high snaps. But nonetheless, Kaden Elliss, he was a great player for this team and was really good at getting to the quarterback. All right, and now we got Nate Landmine, the Landman. 110 total tackles, 66 solo, 44 assists, 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 3 pass deflections, 1 interception. Nate Landman was him. He was doing everything for the Falcons. He was getting tackles, sacks, and interceptions. Just think about what he can do this season in that defensive line. Hopefully, Jimmy Lake, he can actually unlock him and turn him into the scariest linebacker on this defensive front. He can be an outstanding player. And now we have the defensive interior, the defensive end, the defensive tackles, and defensive linemen. And first up is Calais Campbell. 56 total tackles, 32 solo, 24 assists, 6.5 sacks, tied with Bud Dupree, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 pass deflection. So, the former Walter Payton Man of the Year, he comes to Atlanta and he does what he promised. He's going to be the player that's going to get to the quarterback and be a focal point for the Falcons defense and offense. He was basically a leader for the entire team. And in week 6, he finally got his 100th career sack. So kudos to Calais Campbell. I hope he comes back because we need him. Next up is Taquan Graham. 23 total tackles, 6 solo, 17 assists, 1 sack, and a forced fumble. So Taquan Graham, I believe, is going to be a cut candidate for the Falcons because he hasn't played too much for us, and he hasn't been consistent ever since we drafted him. Next up is David Onyemata. 50 tackles, 25 solo and assists each. He also had 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 pass deflection. So David Onyemata, he was up and about. I believe he missed a couple of games due to injury, but he was a very solid defensive lineman. So kudos to him. I got a lot of respect for him. Next up is the rookie, Zach Harrison. 23 total tackles, 18 solo, 15 assists, 3 sacks, 1 pass deflection. Just like the other defensive rookies, Zach Harrison was not really seen much during the first couple of games, but he really started getting after it, the last part of the season. Next up is Kentavious Street. 33 total tackles, 18 solo, 15 assists, 3 sacks, 1 pass deflection. So Kentavious Street, we acquired him throughout the middle of the season. He made a couple of good plays, but I don't think he's going to stay on the team. He might get cut. And last but not least is our leader, the man who's been with the team ever since he got drafted, Grady Jarrett. 23 total tackles, 9 solo, 14 assists, and 1.5 sacks with 2 pass deflections. So Grady Jarrett, throughout the first 6 starts, he was dangerous. He was making plays. But unfortunately, after the Titans games, he suffered an ACL injury that took him out for the rest of the year. So what seemed to be a huge blow to our defense was not really a huge blow because we still got 42 sacks. And if you think about it, had Grady Jarrett been healthy, we could have had damn near 53 sacks. If you think about it, because Grady Jarrett, he is a potent defensive lineman. All right, now with the player stats out of the way, let's do a rookie spotlight. So here we have all the rookies. Let's see how they did. Bijan Robinson, he set a franchise record for the most yards by a rookie with 1,463. Matthew Bergeron, he started all 17 games at left guard, and he committed the second fewest penalties among all rookie offensive linemen with a minimum of 900 snaps. Zach Harrison, his 17.6 pressure rate was second among rookies with a minimum of 50 pass rush snaps from weeks 13 to 17. Clark Phillips III started the final 5 games at corner and also held opponents to a 76.9 passer rating, fourth among rookie cornerbacks with a minimum of 100 covered snaps. DeMarco Hellams led the team with 8 special team tackles, and he also started 4 of the 5 games last season. The final 5 games. And now let's do some player grades. Quarterback is first. Desmond Ridder gets a D-. Taylor Heinicke also gets a D-. Logan Woodside gets an F. The wide receivers, Drake London, A+. Scotty Miller, B-. Van Jefferson, he gets a D. Mac Hollins, he gets a D. Cordero Hodge gets a D. Running backs: B. John Robinson, A+. Tyler Algier, A+. Cordero Patterson, C+. Tight ends: Kyle Pitts, B-. Jonnu Smith, C+. Michael Pruitt, D. And our main man, Young Wei Koo, A. Let's move on to the secondary. Jesse Bates, A+. Richie Grant, D-. DeMarco Hellams, C. Mike Hughes, D. D. Alford, D. Jeff Okudah, C+. Clark Phillips III, C+. Trey Flowers, D. AJ Terrell, C+. Linebackers: Troy Anderson, B- for the games that he played. Lorenzo Carter, B-. Bud Dupree, A. Arnold Ebiketie, A. Caden Ellis, B+. And Nate Landman gets a B+. The front seven: Calais Campbell, A. Taquan Grant, C. David Onyemata, B-. Zach Harrison, C. Kentavious Street, D. Grady Jarrett, B- for the games that he played. Alrighty, and now we're going to be reacting to my 2023 schedule prediction that I made in Season 1 of Falcons Talk. I will also be going over what happened through each game. So let's go over that now. Alrighty, here is my channel, and we'll be looking at this right here. Let's take a few full playlists. This was Falcons Talk that I made before the 2023 season, and we'll be looking at this right here, the schedule prediction. Let's take a look and see how accurate I was. What's good, YouTube? Guy1 Falcons in here. Welcome back to another video, and welcome back to Falcons Talk, where we talk all Atlanta Falcons and their offseason moves. In this episode, we'll be talking about the 2023 schedule. I'll be predicting the Falcons schedule and comparing it to what I predicted earlier. If you haven't checked my video where I predicted the Falcons schedule, please check it out. It's in the description box below. But without further ado, let's begin. So the Falcons begin their 2023 season at home against Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. In my prediction, I predicted the Falcons would be heading to Detroit to face the Detroit Lions. So I was wrong with that one. But nonetheless, the Falcons will take the win here. I was correct. The Falcons, they did get the win. Rookie B. John Robinson, he stood out. He came as advertised. Tyler Algier, he also showed out. But Desmond Ridder, he had his struggles. And that would be very interesting. And that would go on, throughout a couple of games. Because Bryce Young, he is coming to Atlanta. It's going to be a tough environment for Bryce Young. Especially with our defense, he is going to get collapsed. He will get destroyed. He didn't really get collapsed. But Lorenzo Carter really gave him that welcome to Atlanta. Bam! By Grady Jarrett and Calais Campbell. Watch him get welcome to the NFL and welcome to Atlanta. Yeah, that can happen. Following that game, the Atlanta Falcons stay home and this time host Tom Grassi's Green Bay Packers. This is no longer the Aaron Rodgers era in Green Bay. It is now led by Jordan Love. And sorry to say this, Mr. Grassi and Packers fans, but Jordan Love is going to have his growing pains. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers in a full season. He's going to struggle and he's going to suck a lot. I was wrong. Jordan Love, he led the team to the playoffs. So I got to give him his respect. He had a great season. But you got to be patient with him. But when he comes to Atlanta, he has no chance of beating us. I had the Falcons winning this game, and in my prediction, they surely won this game, so kudos to the Falcons. I predicted this will be a Sunday night football game against the Minnesota Vikings, so I take an L. In week 3, the Atlanta Falcons will take on the Detroit Lions in Detroit. This is going to be a tough game for the team, and they will take their first loss because the Lions defense and Jared Goff, they're just a better team than us. And they surely did beat us. We did not stand a chance. They're basically us, but much better. So we're going to take an L here. But if the Falcons manage to pull off the upset, I will not be surprised because the Falcons, they know how to keep things close and be very competitive, especially with teams that are above 500. And I predicted that they would face the Packers. So I take another L here. Then in week 4, the Atlanta Falcons head to London to face the Wembley Jaguars, or the Jacksonville Jaguars, really. But anyways, this is Desmond Ritter's first game in London, and same for Drake London. He's going to play in London. Sorry about that. So that's kind of a weird thing to say, but whatever. The Falcons are going to have a very tough time defeating the Jaguars. And boy, did we have a tough time. Desmond Ridder, he fell off a cliff. Even though we're facing our former Falcons, Calvin Ridley and Foye Oluokun, and I definitely want to beat them, but I don't see them beating the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is just too good. But if the Falcons pull off the upset, who knows? They could pull it off, and everyone will take us seriously. Yeah, that didn't happen. So now it's week 5. The Falcons are back in Atlanta, and they take on CJ Stroud and Houston Texans. This should be another win for the Falcons. I don't see a reason why we should lose to the Texans. And we didn't. We beat CJ Stroud. Because we're playing against a rookie quarterback who's going to have his growing pains. We should not let him come to Atlanta and kick us in the face. Georgia was able to beat Stroud. The Falcons should be able to beat him too. We're going to go 3-2 after week 5, and I go 0-5 in predicting Falcons games. And I'll never think about CJ Stroud. He turned out to be one of the best players on the team. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year. So kudos to him. So, in week 6, the Falcons stay home and host the Washington Commanders. This should be another easy game for the Falcons to win. We can run, assuming we just... That's where my undefeated streak ends. Desmond Ridder, he crumbled and had one of the worst games of his career. And at that point, that really was the downfall of the team. Run the ball against Washington's defense, we should be able to win this game. And right now, things are looking good for the Falcons. We're undefeated at home, and the only 2 losses were against the Lions and the Jaguars, which are understandably reasonable. But anyways, I predicted that the Falcons will take on the Texans week 6, but in reality, they faced them the week earlier. week 5. So I'm 0-6 and the Falcons are 4-2. Then in week 7, the Falcons will take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. This is going to be another loss for the Falcons. It was not. We actually beat Tampa Bay in Tampa. So kudos to the Falcons and Younghoe Koo. Because the Buccaneers defense is still pretty good, especially at home. It's very hard to beat the Buccaneers at home. But anyways, Baker Mayfield, I don't know what to think about him. I don't think he's going to do a lot to help the Buccaneers win games. They're probably going to be... He led them to the playoffs, so I'll give him credit. Tanking for a quarterback in the 2024 NFL draft. Yeah, it's going to be another loss for the Falcons. We go 4-3, and I go 0-7 because I predicted that the Falcons will take on the Chicago Bears instead of the Buccaneers. Then in week 8, the Atlanta Falcons stay on the road and this time head to Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Titans. So Arthur Smith returns to Tennessee to face his former team. You can expect them to run the ball a lot in this game, which should lead them to a victory. So the Falcons are going to go wrong. It took us to an L. Desmond Ridder, 1 half, he sucked. Taylor Heineke, he tried his best, but we fell short. 5-3, and I still have not predicted a Falcons game properly, and I go 0-8. So now the Falcons are back home in Atlanta, and they take on the Minnesota Vikings. I predict it's going to be an upset. Yes, the Falcons will upset the Minnesota Vikings, and I think it's because... No, they will not, because Kirk Cousins was out, and Justin Jefferson was out as well. So no, it was not an upset that we lost to Joshua Dobbs, who just arrived there. Our run game is going to be very explosive against the Vikings defense, and also due to the fact that they released Dalvin Cook, so they already lost a key player on that offense, and our defense should be able to get to Kirk Cousins and lock up Justin Jefferson. So the Falcons go 6-3, and I go 0-9. Following that game, the Atlanta Falcons head to Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. This should be another easy win for the Falcons, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I need an explanation as to how the Falcons lost to the Cardinals, the worst team in the league. Yeah, the Falcons defense crumbled at the worst time. That was disappointing, and I was pissed off. The Arizona Cardinals are in a rebuild mode, and I don't think they're going to win any games this season, and they're going to be taking Caleb. They won a couple games. I'll get in that. Williams, first overall. I predict that the Falcons are going to take a bye week, week 10, but that's not the case. So Falcons will go 7-3 on the season, and I go 0-10 or 0-9, including the bye week. So week 11, the Falcons take their bye week. Nothing needs to be said, and I predict that the Falcons will be taking on the Buccaneers in Tampa. So still have not predicted a game right, but all of that changes week 12 as the Falcons take on the New Orleans Saints in Atlanta. I predicted this, and I got it right for the first time. But the only difference is that it's not a Thanksgiving game. I still have the Falcons beating the Aints. There's no... Correct. We surely beat the Aints, and they did not score a single touchdown on us. So kudos to the Falcons. Reason why we should let the Aints keep on owning us in Atlanta. It's time to start getting up and telling the Aints that this is our house, not yours. Following the Saints game, the Atlanta Falcons head to New York and take on the New York Jets. So this is going to be a tough game for us to play because Aaron Rodgers is there. If this was Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers was not there. He suffered an Achilles injury that took him out for the rest of the year, and we were going to win this game thanks to Tim Boyle, rip Trevor Siemian, trash-ass quarterback. I would probably have taken the Falcons, but this is the Aaron Rodgers-led New York Jets, and they got a lot of other players from the Packers, so this is going to be a tough match up for us, and we're going to take an L here. Then in Week 14, the Atlanta Falcons take on the Buccaneers at home. This will be a win for the Falcons as they move to 9-4. It will be a loss. We split with the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are not that good of a team to sweep the Falcons, and there's no reason why we should lose to them again. So now it's Week 15, and the Falcons are in Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. This is going to be a win. It will be a loss. How did the Falcons manage to lose to the Panthers? I do not know. Yes, the Falcons will sweep the Panthers and move on to 10-4. Yes, I understand that Bryce Young at this time, he will be cooking, but I feel... Oh, nah, he ain't going to be cooking. He's going to be sleeping. Like we could sweep the Panthers because they're still not that good of a team. And I predicted that they will take on the Buccaneers, but obviously they faced them last week. The Falcons then take on the Chicago Bears, Week 16 in Chicago. This is going to be another win for the Falcons because the Bears' offensive line, it will be a loss. Still is not the best when it comes to protection. Justin Fields still gets sacked a lot of times, and I still expect the Falcons defense, to get to Fields a lot of times. We did get to Fields, but we still lost. Then in Week 17, the Falcons play their last home game of the season, taking on the Indianapolis Colts, just as I predicted. And I predict the Falcons are going to win this game. And we sure did. It was a Christmas miracle. Taylor Heinicke, he was the unsung hero. And it's going to be the third win in the all-time series against the Colts. Had Matt Ryan not been released, this would have been a Matt Ryan revenge game. That's great to think about it. Had Ryan been still on the Colts, it could have been a Matt Ryan homecoming game. But oh well, it is what it is. Thank you, Matt Ryan, for a great career. Happy retirement. And it would have been really cool to see Matt Ryan return to Atlanta, but this time as a visitor. Then comes the season finale. The Falcons head to New Orleans to take on the Aints again. And unfortunately, this is going to be a loss because it wasn't just a loss. It was an ass beating. If you think about it, we went 8-9. I went 8-9 predicting Falcons games. So still under 500, but a slightly better record. We have already clinched the division. We've already made the playoffs. Most of our starters are resting and preparing for the wild card. So this is going to be a loss. And to top things off, the Falcons will go 12-5 in the season. No, we will go 7-10 and miss out. So yeah, that's how it went. Falcons went 7-10. I went 8-9. So with that done, let's head back to Falcons talk. I'll just close it off. And now let's end with some closing thoughts. So the Atlanta Falcons are a great team with lots of potential. The defense, despite costing us a few games, they have stepped up dramatically when needed. Offensively, the team needs to find stability at the quarterback position. Desmond Ridder, who has shown flashes, has consistently struggled to prevent turnovers. Arthur Smith, who many believe to be an offensive genius, failed to properly use his 3 offensive first-round picks on offense, which penultimately led to his firing. Hopefully, new head coach Raheem Morris can utilize these players well and develop them into the player that they can be. On another note, we need to score more touchdowns and give Koo a break. He is consistently tired of carrying this team on his back. Some of his missed field goals, like I said, were because he was tired of constantly kicking field goals for our incompetent offense. With new head coach Raheem Morris and new quarterback Kirk Cousins, I expect this team to win at least 10 games in 2024. And with that, Falcons Talk Season 2, Episode 1 comes to an end. Thank you guys for watching this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below what you thought. I hope you guys have a great day, and see you in the next video.